Ms. Niels-Brash, have met with Senator Groney's staff and talked with NSEA and other school districts about our OPS concerns with the bill, specifically the definition of cause by accident and the types of discipline the school district could use for a related incident. It hasn't been scheduled for another round of debate, and since we are only working on priority bills on the floor currently, we're not sure when that would come back up, if it will this year. The next big ticket item I want to talk about is LB 974. That's on page 18 of your matrix. That bill is the big TIOSA changes and lower property tax funding for schools bill. We have a position of opposed to that. We continue to have meetings with our partners in the education community regarding this bill. Senator Linehan has been meeting with other school districts and their superintendents and business managers, along with some of the senators who represent those districts, to discuss the school district's modeling of the financials of the bill and the amendment. She's asked Senator Colcherman to join her in some of those meetings, and Senator Linehan and Governor Ricketts have stepped up their rhetoric and pressure on senators and chambers of commerce that LB 974 must be tied with LB 720, which is the bill to create the new tax incentives program in the state. And if both bills, either both bills pass or no bills pass. It's been on the record as of late. So we've heard that the Speaker wants to schedule LB 974 for another 3 hours of debate to take it to a cloture vote. That would mean that we would be filibustering the bill for 3 hours and then force a vote to end the discussion, the filibuster, before taking a potential vote to advance the bill. And we are confident that Senator Linehan does not have the 33 votes to reach a cloture vote to advance the bill. So that's an update on 974. A new bill that we have not yet seen on the floor but has been scheduled for the last few weeks is LB 1131, which we refer to as the NDE, or the Department of Education cleanup bill. It makes a number of different changes. A lot of them are kind of changes that the department hands over to Senator Groney, and as the chairman, Senator Groney introduces that bill annually. There are two significant amendments. AM 2638 would amend LB 1001, which is the bill that would require suicide prevention hotline phone numbers to be printed on all new student IDs. That amendment is from Senator Crawford. It was her bill in the Education Committee. The bill made it out onto general file, and she intends to amend it onto L 1131. And another amendment is the committee amendment in itself. It makes changes to the Reading Recovery Act, which was the bill that made changes to K through third grade reading proficiency from Senators Pansing Brooks and Linehan from a couple years ago. The amendment changes the time frame during which the students need to receive their initial assessments at the beginning of the school year. It also changes a may to a shall, which would then require the district to include more interventions in the supplemental program provided to each student, even if the student doesn't necessarily need those specific supplemental interventions. The district would need to provide individualized plans for each student rather than just individual plans. We have shared our concerns with the Department of Education and Senator Pansing Brooks, and are hoping to work with all interested parties on clarifying the intent of that amendment and the changes that would be done to the Reading Recovery Act. We are hoping to make some changes and potentially see a new amendment on select file. So that bill is up first thing tomorrow morning on general file, so we'll see it probably advance without too much issue, we would hope. So those are the main bills that I wanted to get into the meat of. There are a few more bills that I want to just highlight, which also received either Speaker, committee, or Senator priorities. So starting on page 16 of your matrix, if you want to flip through, LB 751 was made a Speaker priority. It's a bill from Senator Blood, which would include mental health exception to the student attendance plans. LB 920 is the Other Education Committee priority bill. It's the bill that would extend all of the K-12 and post-secondary programs which are funded by state lottery dollars. And LB 965 from Senator McDonnell, it creates the new English language proficiency for assessment for those who are deaf and hard of hearing. LB 1073 from Senator DeBoer, that's her personal priority. That's the three-lever plan, which makes changes to school finance and creates the Commission on School Finance Reform. LB 1080 received a speaker priority. That's the bill from Senator Lathrop in the Education Committee, which prohibits inappropriate relationships between students and school employees. That bill did make it out onto general file. We're working with the Education Committee and the Judiciary Committees and Senators Vargas and Quick to hopefully amend LB 1210, which was the bill that we worked on with Senator Vargas and Judiciary that actually makes these types of acts a criminal offense, and work with Senator Quick on his LB 1048 to potentially package the two of those into an amendment that could go onto 1080 on the floor. Or otherwise, we'll be putting that package into a Judiciary Committee priority bill so that something is done this year on those inappropriate relationships and inappropriate contact between school employees and students. LB 1089 from Senator Vargas, that's his personal priority bill. That's the bill that would create a new graduation requirement of the FAFSA completion. He's still working on an amendment within the Education Committee. The bill is still in committee. He would like to still work on an amendment that would clarify what type of form would be provided by the Department of Education to parents, which would explain the informed opt-out. What is the FAFSA? What are the extenuating circumstances for a family that they would not need to fill that out or should not fill that out? And then waive them from the graduation requirement. Another Senator priority bill is Senator Albright's LB 1186, which provides injury leave for school employees who are injured on the job as a result of a student-involved incident. Senator Linehan's LB 1202, Opportunity Scholarships Tax Credit Bill. It's currently still in committee. We have a position of opposed to that. We do see that hitting the floor because its previous version from last year, LB 670, did make it out onto the floor with a 5-1 vote with one senator present not voting. So we do anticipate seeing that and having that fight on the floor.
A vote in last session?
That was LB 670 last session. It did not come to a vote. We filibustered it and did not come to a cloture vote.
I'm just making sure, so everyone. Thank you.
Mm-hmm. And then the last bill is Senator Wayne's LB 1218, which creates a historically underutilized business program, which we have a position of monitor with research, and that is still in the government committee. So setting all that aside, we do have 3 bills to take positions on. We have 3 recommendations from the Legislative Committee of Monitor with Research on bills that were heard last week during the last week of committee hearings. We don't anticipate them any further action being taken on these bills this year, and none of them have priorities. So those bills in order are LB 967, LB 1156, and LB 1177. All 3 of those the Legislative Committee recommends we monitor with research.
Thank you. Well, before we make a motion and move on that, does anybody have any questions initially from the bills, the update from the legislature? Could you go back when your first comment that you talked about the
Forecasting board?
Forecasting board.
Mm-hmm.
Can you go over that again for us?
So the forecasting board met last Friday, and they did take into consideration all receipts coming in as well as the impact of coronavirus on the state's economy.
How did they do that? How did they do that?
They discussed it. They discussed it.
Correct. Okay.
So we do, but we have, since the changes in the federal tax code over the last couple years, we have had increased receipts in terms of corporate income taxes and sales tax after we finally started taxing online sales tax. So that has created enough of a bump that they've felt that they're comfortable with increasing the revenue projections.
Thank you. Okay. All right. Well, the committee J1A, legislative update for the matrix, updating recommendation from the committees LB 967, LB 1156, LB 1177, monitor with research. I will entertain a motion to take the position on those 3.
I move to take a position on those 3.
Thank you, Mr. Smith.
Second.
This is a motion by Mr. Smith, second by Dr. Holman. Discussion. Now, this is discussion for those three. Seeing none, Mr. Ray, roll call, please.
Perlman.
Aye.
Ryan.
Aye.
Smith.
Aye.
Snipe.
Aye.
Snow.
Aye.
Cassidy.
Aye.
Godding.
Aye.
Holman.
Aye.
Cracky.
Aye.
9-9.
Motion carries. Thank you. And Blair, if you can keep us in update what's going on, because I know everyone is, it comes from the governor's office on what response will happen, financial impact for the economy and families, Nebraskan families. I appreciate that. Thank you.
All right. Thanks, guys.
Moving on to item J1B. I believe we have curriculum and research here, or curriculum, I believe.
Good evening, President Snow, members of the board, and Superintendent Dr. Logan. My name is John Waddle, and I'm here with Mickey Holbeck. We are both teaching and learning consultants with the Department of Curriculum and Instruction Support, and we're here to talk to you about the ELA adoption process tonight. We want to thank you for your leadership and focus on early literacy by voting to approve the strategic plan powered by Foresight to ensure all students in the Omaha Public Schools read on grade level by age 8. We are very excited to partner with you on this journey tonight. We're going to share information about the Omaha Public Schools English Language Arts adoption process and how it aligns to Strategic Plan Priority 1 academics, specifically early literacy and the selection of high-quality instructional materials. On the screen is our timeline for the process of selecting HMH into reading and Arriba la Lectura. Working in collaboration with many, including the OPS Legal Department and the Department of Operational Services, a request for proposals was submitted in March of 2019, resulting in 16 products being sent in for us to review. From April through May, curriculum and instruction support personnel, teachers, community members, and the Diversity and Equity Committee all had an opportunity to review the materials and make a recommendation as to which 2 products we would field test in the fall. In June, a textbook selection committee, including CIS personnel, representatives from Buffett Early Childhood Institute, the Nebraska Department of Education, Ed Reports, and UNO met to review the process and help us make this determination to field test HMH into reading and Pearson MyView. From August through December of 2019, 91 teachers field tested each product for 8 weeks and provided weekly feedback, in addition to a summative evaluation at the end of each 8-week field test process. At the completion of the field test, the OPS Research Division presented the data they had collected throughout the entire process, and teachers met in grade level groups to give their final review of the materials and their final recommendation. The Textbook Selection Committee reconvened in December of 2019 to review all of the data we had collected and help us make that final selection, which leads us here tonight, which is to propose that we move forward with the purchase of HMH into reading Arriba la Lectura. Now, there are many, many reasons why Into Reading will best meet the needs of the Omaha Public Schools. Here are some ways Into Reading will help our students become better readers. Into Reading provides high-quality literature that our students, like Hawa Lugendo from Gifford Park, will want to read. Extensive time is spent on phonemic awareness instruction for our youngest learners. Structured systematic phonics instruction occurs daily and is based on the science of reading. Students read and write directly in their student books. Reading, writing, and discussion activities help students build background knowledge about their world. Ongoing assessments allow for teachers to check for student understanding. And digital components like Amira and iRead are responsive to the diverse needs of our students. We would like for you to meet Amira. She is the teacher's reading assistant, and she provides students with the oral fluency assessment. Amira was created by Carnegie Mellon University and is a reliable dyslexia screener. She is also powered by artificial intelligence. Here is a sample of how Amira can support our teachers.
How can I help you?
Is Allison done with her test yet?
Allison's assessment is completed.
How did she do?
Allison scored a 426.
What does this score tell me about her?
Allison is just below average in reading skills. You should be in catch-up mode with this student.
Is she making progress?
Peter, Allison's progress is shown on the screen. Her fluency is improving, but her precision is not getting better.
What skills are giving her trouble?
Allison is blocked on the following skills: makes random errors, says correct sounds, recodes out of order.
Thanks, John. Good evening. At the end of the field test of these two high-quality instructional materials, using them in our classrooms with our students, 84% of the teachers responded that HMH into Reading would best meet the needs of OPS students. This teacher input aligned with other collected data. And we'd like to take a moment to once again thank our field test teachers like Ms. Nina Sitting Eagle, a second grade teacher at Jackson Elementary, for their hard work and ongoing feedback throughout the process. Another reason that HMH into Reading was selected is because it ranks as one of the highest rated K-5 ELA programs according to Ed Reports. Ed Reports uses expert literacy educators to conduct extensive reviews of curriculum materials. They concluded that Into Reading meets all of the criteria at every grade level in the three gateways seen here on this slide: text quality and alignment to standards, building knowledge with texts, vocabulary, and tasks, and usability. And green and meets expectations are the highest ratings given by Ed Reports. Into Reading aligns with the OPS strategic priority number 1, academics, because of its strong focus on early literacy foundational skills in the primary grades, comprehension and vocabulary, and supporting teachers with instruction designed to meet the needs of students. This is Mrs. Kim Schubert. She's a first grade teacher at Gifford Park Elementary School right across the street. Go Groundhogs! Let's follow her on her path as she learns how to use Into Reading to support her students. All of the Into Reading materials arrive at Gifford Park before the end of the school year. So she and all OPS teachers are able to dig into them and get a jump start. And additionally, Mrs. Schubert and all OPS teachers and leadership will attend a kickoff training on May 26th to get started learning about the program. There will also be optional summer trainings provided that any teacher or leadership can attend to learn more about Into Reading. In August, Mrs. Schubert and all OPS teachers and leaders will attend a curriculum day training so that they will feel confident with all of the components of Into Reading before we welcome students back on the first day of school. After implementing Into Reading in her classroom for a month, Mrs. Schubert will have lots of great questions to ask at the September Curriculum Day training. And at Gifford Park, Mrs. Schubert will receive ongoing coaching and other school-level supports as she continues her Into Reading journey. District-level professional development will be provided throughout next year and each subsequent year of the adoption. This is Davin Bass. He's a first grade student in Mrs. Schubert's classroom at Gifford Park Elementary School. Let's follow him on a typical day with Into Reading. Mrs. Schubert starts her literacy block with a read aloud. Today's story is a student favorite, Pete the Cat. Mrs. Schubert passes out highlighters to all of the students and lets them know that they can highlight right in their text where the author is showing how Pete is feeling. And then Davin gets to turn and share his thinking about Pete the Cat with a partner. Next, Mrs. Schubert uses her time to pull small groups of students so she can meet their individual needs. And after Davin reads with Mrs. Schubert, he gets to log into iRead, a fun and engaging digital reading program that is uniquely tailored to his individual needs. Foundational skills such as phonological awareness and phonics are taught every day in Into Reading. And today, Davin is practicing reading and writing words with the short A sound. Davin will read a decodable reader every day and also have opportunities to read text of his choice during the literacy block. Mrs. Schubert teaches writing in the afternoon, and Davin loves practicing in his grammar workbook and writing about topics of his choice. At the end of the day, Davin carefully tears out the Pete the Cat story from his student textbook so he can take it home and read it to a family member. And family members have the ability to log into all of the digital components of Into Reading so they can see what Davin is learning and join him on his Into Reading journey. Into Reading promotes the shared values of results, equity, accountability, leadership, and joy. Thank you for your support of literacy in the Omaha Public Schools. These high-quality instructional materials will lay the foundation for transforming literacy, teaching, and learning as we reach our early literacy goal of all students reading on grade level by age 8. Thank you.
Thank you. I'll open up to the table for board members, starting with Dr. Holman.
Hi, good evening. Thank you so much for your presentation. I really enjoyed it. I saw firsthand in a couple of schools our teachers utilizing this reading series, and they truly loved it, and so did the children. So I'm very excited about it. I did have a couple questions regarding the training. So can you tell me, outside of the curriculum day, I don't know if you're able to answer this or not, but outside of curriculum day in both August and September, will that, and the optional one in the summer, will that be it for the training, or is there going to be ongoing within like the buildings during in-service days, or just professional development district-wide?
Both. We're planning on having additional professional development throughout the year, district-wide professional development directly from HMH, and also we're looking at a train-the-trainer model where we will have teachers actually training other teachers on the product, and then at the school level as well, they'll have opportunities.
Cool. And then with the optional summer training, what types of things will they be doing then, or learning about then?
So they're still new to the product, so they'll be kind of exploring, getting oriented to the product, especially the digital resources. There are options for them to actually do digital planning, so they can use the digital online version. It's like a teacher plan book, but online, so they'll have opportunities to learn that.
Great. Thank you so much. I'm really excited about this.
Thank you.
Ms. Knight. Did she answer your question? Okay. Mrs. Scotting.
So I have several questions. The first one, and maybe it's more for Dr. Logan, and it's kind of piggybacks off of what you had just asked. Tonight we approved some grant funding. Is that also for professional development of the PD? Is that for literacy, or am I off on that?
No, we don't have grant funding. This funding is from the general fund.
Okay.
We had $7 million that was originally budgeted, and that was a legacy figure from a couple of years ago. We kept that number, and then we knew we were probably going to have to add. In addition, one of the things that we wanted to do was to also have, in addition to training our own coaches, was to have some coaches directly from our vendor, from HMH who will be here, will be embedded, basically, where schools will have an opportunity to have that, have a coach come in and provide support for their teacher, for teachers during their regular planning time. That is so important because the thing with getting so many new materials, and that's one of the reasons we want the materials to be there in May, so teachers will have them as they, look and, plan as they normally routinely plan, is because it takes so long to just understand all the different components. And one of the things that we have been talking about internally is that we know about the 1st of October, people are going to go, boy, I wish I had my old stuff, even though it was old and we knew we needed new stuff because of the lack of a familiarity with the new stuff. And also, it's so much. And most of our teachers have never been through an adoption. And it's a big lift for a district to adopt K to 5. And so we are knowing where we're going to have pain points. We also understand that, there are people who want to come in the summer. They will be paid to come in if they decide to come in. It's not, we don't expect them to come. We always expect to pay people if they come in. And for folks to become more expert, because one of the things that will be really helpful is that because we did such a robust pilot, is many teachers will already have some level of familiarity, but what you see is that each grade level is so broad, so to have some grade level or grade band experts in schools will be really super, super important. And lastly, the implementation in year 1 is a lot about familiarity with using the product. And year 2 is when people really get to the point where they really become expert at using the product, and where you really start to see some changes in your data based on the fact that we have this resource that really is going to require and help us really elevate our literacy K-5 to a much more Nebraska college and career standards measure.
So so I was looking back at the grant budget tonight, and we approved $1 million, 1.12 million for 75% of the cost of purchasing children's consultant services from Children's Literacy Initiative. Is that separate from what you're talking about?
Children's Literacy Initiative is Children's Literacy Initiative is our partner that is a expert in early literacy around the country. They are a nonprofit. They're not a for-profit like a textbook company, and they are going to help us with coaching, with standardizing what we expect in our classrooms. We're going to start off very simply with a classroom protocol for early literacy. What should we see in all of our classrooms? So the additional monies that were spent, that were allocated for things in the classroom, we want every classroom, K to 3, to look like a model classroom. And so over the next 3 years, we will make that happen in all of our classrooms. I think I may have mentioned that we can't do it all in one, but Children's Literacy Initiative will be our partner in that work, and we would have I would have proposed that we funded it through regular general funds. We're just very fortunate that we have a partner because it is critical having that partner. We have a great experts here. The presenters really fantastic job. I couldn't wait to say it. I was going to send an email later, but I just didn't want to say it in public. Just fantastic. But we need some. We have an outside source that can help us, and they've already been here on the ground working with us. They were willing to come, and not, if they didn't work out, they were fine coming to work with us because they were so excited about what we're doing here in Omaha.
Thank you for clarifying that, because I know a lot of people have had questions about exactly how are we going to move forward and what does it look like and how is it paid. So I appreciate that clarification for really 2 items on the agenda tonight that should make a significant impact for our students. So I have a question related to the specific instructional materials, which we'll be looking at. And I love the artificial intelligence piece of that, which really is where we're headed anyway. as a society. So tell me, is most of this instructional material fairly new, or has it been out for a while? I'm just curious. It seems like it's very innovative and it's cutting edge. So
Most of this is brand new. This is a 2020 product, so a lot of it has not been out there. And Mira, what you saw, is exclusive to HMH, so she is not available anywhere else but with HMH.
okay, that's awesome to know, and wonderful to know that we were able to test that. So really, it's a new, innovative approach to instruction, and I'm assuming it's a complete change from, maybe not a complete change, but a change from where they've been in the past.
Correct.
Is that correct?
Yes.
Okay. Perfect. Thank you.
Thank you. Mr. Smith?
I just had a quick question. Is there like a dual language component to this curriculum? And we didn't get to see that, so how does that work?
The dual language component is Arriba la Lectura, and it's pretty much mirrors the into reading the English side.
And how many languages is
Just Spanish.
Okay.
Ms. Cracky?
My question was a couple questions, and I think you already answered the one, that it hadn't been tried anywhere else before. So we're the first ones to use the program?
We believe in Nebraska we are, but it's a 2020 program, so it is brand new, and there are other school districts across the country that have adopted it as well.
When did they adopt it? So I just want to know, if it's just out in 2020, we don't have too much evidence of its success yet, do we?
Because it is a brand new program, we don't have, you're correct, we don't have evidence of its current success, but we know the research base behind it is strong, and it is based on the science of reading. We are working closely with our research department to ensure that we are using assessments as we go along to make good decisions.
Hopefully we all will, but for me, I will know better when we're into it if this is the best move that we can be doing. So, I don't just jump in if I'm not sure about something. And I want to know if, with the workshop in May, will the teachers who are going to continue in their grade level at their school, will they have the opportunity to take this home and review it over the summer?
Yes, our goal is that all the teachers will have all of the materials they need at the beginning of May.
Okay, and I'm really pleased about that because they don't have time. The year is just so fast, writing lesson plans, doing the papers, going to meetings. And so if you have that time to yourself with the material, it's so much better. It is so much better. So I'm happy about that. And I will caution all of us, I'm hoping we're not getting material within the program that is excessive and will not be used. I've been through that before. Many, many things were ordered, and it was glitzy and gorgeous, but it didn't do the job. So I want to caution all of us as we move forward with this. Thank you.
Thank you.
Thank you for that, Ms. Cracky. That is so true, and we know that if you don't have a good implementation plan at the beginning, that is what happens, because people are overwhelmed, and then they just use the core or whatever they need to get through the day, which is why we wanted to make sure that teachers had it in their hands at least 3 months prior to the school year started, and then a really solid implementation plan that was not just for year one, but for years 1 through 7.
Ms. Cassidy?
Thank you. Thank you for the presentation. Very informative. Just a couple questions. First off, kind of to piggyback what Mrs. Cracky said, I love the fact that the students are going to have a lot of materials, workbooks that it sounds like they're going to be able to write in and tear things out and take home to share with families. I think especially for the K through 5, students love to bring materials home. And I know as a parent, I look at it, so hopefully our teachers are going to utilize those materials and students will take them home. So that's a great piece. I'm assuming that the iRead is something that the students are going to be able to log into at home. Is that correct?
Correct. Yep.
Okay. If they obviously are fortunate enough to have.
Correct.
And then also for the student, or for the teachers, we mentioned a lot of the different times that they're going to be able to get development and learn about this curriculum and be able to utilize it. Will they have any online support as far as after those sessions in May and August and whatnot are done? Is there any online component for teachers? We all know teachers are not 8 to 4 finished right at the end of the day. Will they be able to utilize any of this at home or get any type of support?
Yes, there are ongoing digital supports, video, webinars, types, things like that teachers can access on their own time at their convenience for professional learning opportunities.
And they can access all of the materials at home without even having to take home their teacher's manuals. They do it right through the waffle on our Office 365.
Ms. Cracky.
That brings up the next question. Do all the children have a computer at home that we're going to be giving this to? And we know they don't. So that part of this presentation may not happen in some homes.
We actually had a survey done last year by Bright Bites, and I can share that information with the board, but the access for our homes is actually a lot more than what people think. I believe it was 87% have internet, 89% of our students have internet access at home. So I'm happy to share that with the board. And if I remember correctly, 61% have some device to use, and often, many times it may be a phone. You know, all of the companies are making portals so that people can use it on their phone. As small as it is, kids like to read it on their phone. So I will share that information with the board, but I think we would, it's probably not what folks think it is. Our students have a lot more access at home than we think that they would. In addition, we do have the students will have the physical book and the pages to take home. We do have to, move in the direction of understanding that if we are saying that we're preparing young people for college and career, that we have to act like it in schools and make sure that they are accessing to the degree that they can. And then we do a lot in our school district at making sure that students have access to devices when they are not in school, whether it's at the public library or through the Comcast, not Comcast, I'm East Coasting, sorry, Cox, sorry, Comcast, for actually they should send me a check, but Cox Cable, and their ability to, students being able to get a very reduced price so that they have internet access, but that is a challenge that we are an opportunity rather that we are working through, but it's not nearly as dire as people would believe. It's much better, and we're very pleased about that.
And we, as part of the selection process, we work closely with IMS here in the Omaha Public Schools to ensure that in our classrooms that the digital components were working correctly. We had a great opportunity to enhance the ability for our primary students to easily log into the digital components in the classroom, and also increasing the amount of hardware that we have.
It was one of the reasons we delayed the purchase of materials, was that we wanted to align it with this process, so whatever was purchased can work with our new materials in K-5. Early literacy for elementary schools.
I was pleased to hear you say they could take their book home. I mean, what good is it if you can't use it? You know, it's terrible. We used to have that thing about taking books home, but I really believe it needs to go home.
And these are theirs to keep at the end of the year. They'll have a nice collection of literature and texts at home to build their library at home with.
That's good. Thank you.
Thank you. Mr. Perlman.
Thank you. What part of this is new for 2020?
Pardon?
You mentioned that part of this is new for 2020?
It's got a publishing date of 2020, HMH into reading.
Okay. I have a question about the Amira part. How big of a part of the whole thing is this Amira thing? That's it. That's my question.
Okay.
Are you asking about the cost? Or Oh, how much of the time? Amira takes approximately about 5 to 7 minutes to administer to students, and it can be done whole groups. So all the students could take Amira at one time, depending on the number of devices they have.
And then used as a practice opportunity for students. They can log in during the literacy block as maybe part of their rotations when they're not working with the teacher for just a short amount of time to practice reading passages.
And can you explain to us a little bit how it can screen for dyslexia?
Yes, thank you. That's a great question. The initial screener, the Amira screener happens 3 times a year, but the initial fall screener uses the random automatized naming and also a word reading fluency passage as well to, and then it creates a low risk, high risk, medium risk metric for students and then their teachers.
And how is that different than what the current practice is?
We currently do not have a dyslexia screener in the district that we use.
Okay, and do we know about the efficacy or the, the efficacy, I suppose, of this program, and if it's been tested and all those sorts of things?
We do know that Amira has been being developed for the last 20 years, so she has lots of research that has gone into her to develop her, but she is brand new, so they are still testing her and updating her.
Okay. Is there any way that I could take a look at some of that research?
Absolutely. We can get that to Mr. Ray.
Okay. Thanks.
Let me just say that Amira is now in digital form, but there was an Amira when I was in school. It was called SRA, the Scholastic Reading Assessment, and you took the tests. They were on cards, and you moved up levels, and you went back based on levels, and that was really those were algorithms that were done manually by the teacher. So the technology, it's technology now, but the whole concept of an adaptive tool is not that new. What is new is having every teacher having access to a PhD in reading who is listening to the assessment and then giving teachers a readout and not just one but several who went into who put the information in terms of programming Amira to give teachers a readout of what is going on. If you were listening to the one of the things that she said in that conversation with Peter, the teacher, was that the student was getting better in terms of fluency, but she was still guessing words, and she used a more technical term than that. And so that's a really great thing that will be a support to our teachers, and it will take time for them to learn it. It's not going to be something in terms of how to incorporate it, and quite frankly, its usefulness in terms of how they use it in the classroom and give feedback to parents. And so we're very excited about having this research. Carnegie Mellon, as most people know, is the leader in artificial intelligence, probably maybe in the world. But we're very excited about having this resource, especially as it pertains to improving our reading outcomes.
Ms. Ryan.
I might have missed this because I had to step out real quick, but how does Amira work with English language learners and accents, particularly with the AI part?
So I think part of the reason that it's been in development for 20 years is that they've worked very hard to determine that students with English learners and also just immature pronunciations of words will still be calculated by Amira. She's been trained to take those things into consideration.
It's a great question. I asked it too. And she knows, I think it was at least 20 English dialects. So that's something that's been taken into account, even for people that are who are English language natives, who may have different regional accents.
Any other questions? Ms. Cassidy.
Sorry, just a quick question, and I might have missed this at a prior board meeting when we started talking about the curriculum adoption. How many teachers were part of the test pilot?
There were 91 teachers who field tested the product.
Thank you. I have a question. Is the AI, is it collecting data? And where does that data go?
Yes. So students read to Amira, and she takes all of that data, and it's in the, I guess, the hard drive of the platform, the HMH platform. So it's launched through the Waffle, and it's part of the Ed platform that comes with HMH.
Ed Online is HMH's online platform where teachers can access all the resources electronically, and so that's where it stores it, is online.
So my question, does HMH, do they keep that data? Or does the data just strictly for the district?
Correct, yes.
So they don't keep any of the data? I'm just, want to make sure that we're not allowing...
We had our IMS team work with HMH to ensure that privacy settings were enacted, so we do have that information.
Perfect.
Regarding those issues.
Awesome. Just for the people that pay attention to that stuff out there.
Thank you.
So up here, this is a $9 million purchase, so it's a big, heavy purchase there, but it's needed for our district and our students. I will entertain a motion to approve item J1B.
So moved.
Oh, do you have another?
Second.
We'll ask it in the middle. There's a motion by Mrs. Scotting, second by Mr. Smith. Mr. Perlman.
Is there any advertising at all that comes through to the students or teachers or parents in any of this?
No, there is no advertisements that come through online.
Because even the screenshot have some logos and stuff for the company. Is that the only advertising?
Yeah, are you talking about the Amira screenshot?
Right.
Or that's just, was for the training purposes.
Okay. So, okay.
We used that demo for training so teachers knew that it was connected to HMH and everything.
Okay.
I think you would expect HMH to be on anything that, any of their pages. It's their product.
Yeah.
Thank you, Mr. Perlman. Any other questions? Okay, Mr. Wright, roll call, please.
Ryan.
Aye.
Smith.
Aye.
Snipe.
Aye.
Snow.
Aye.
Cassidy.
Aye.
Godding.
Aye.
Holman.
Aye.
Cracky.
Aye.
Perlman.
Aye.
9-9.
Thank you, and Dr. Logan, I look forward to you giving the board at least a yearly update or a biannual update on this material and how it's actually helping our students and our teachers.
I'm going to invite you to come out and see it, too.
Awesome.
How about that? That's
Thank
even
you.
better.
That's even better. All right, moving on to the next item on our agenda, J1C. This is still dynamics. That was pulled off the consent agenda. Mr. Perlman.
I just need a moment to pull it up.
No worries.
So I guess my questions on this steel dynamic are just wondering, generally speaking, what the purpose is for the work that's being done here. I mean, it looks like a lot of really important work. I mean, if you look on page 6, it talks about developing a plan for elementary and middle school programming, selecting elementary and middle school academic programs, selecting new elementary and middle schools model. So those seem to be like critically huge things in the district. And so I'm just wondering, what, that could be maybe just fleshed out a little bit.
In what way?
What sort of elementary and middle school programming is being sought, I guess? That would be one question.
Well, they're starting right now. They've already started in our high schools. They did an audit back in October, November, and they presented that to our high school leaders and our executive team. What we know is that we have many schools that have a designation for special programming. That special programming hasn't existed really in those schools for several years. And so we want to, we have some schools that have titles for programs and that they don't really have, and how we either decide that we are going to invest in programs because it's what parents want and we think it will produce great outcomes for young people, or look at some other models. So some models that we currently have that we need to look at, we have dual language in our schools. We all love dual language. We are opening 2 schools, 2 elementary schools, a middle school and a high school that are in the feeder pattern of those current dual language programs. So how do we think about where we're going to offer dual language programs as we move forward? What other kinds of models could be out there that parents have interest in? One could be, for example, a Montessori model. We don't currently have that. We already did meet with the Montessori team, looking at Donna Dobson because we met with them, and Melissa at University of Nebraska Kearney came up and met with us about interest in that. So we'll be looking at quite a few different kinds of programming. We also don't currently have any coding elementary schools. Coding is also a national model that's it can be very enticing to our parents. I have at least 2 schools that are already kind of expressed interest. Well, he will take our schools and our district, his team, through a process of looking at school models and other ones that may come as a result of his work. In the high school space, we are opening 2 new high schools, so we obviously there's some programming there. We also, as a part of our strategic plan of action, promise that we're going to only moving forward support high skill, high wage, high demand, H3 pathways, and so we may have to sunset some programs and launch new ones. And so that's the work that he's going to, and his team are going to help us with. He did this work very successfully in Nashville, and has helped people all over the country, and is also happens to be in his other life. He's currently the president of the National Career Academy Coalition. We already are working with NCAC at Bryan and Benson, maybe 1 or 2 of our other schools, and also the Ford Foundation, which supports quite a bit of work with high school programming, helping school districts to transform their high school programming where they may need to sunset programs and launch new ones. So that's a part of the work. It's a big part of the work. We will keep our student assignment plan committee updated because it will impact decisions. And then when there are times for input, and those times will be coming up shortly, certainly we'll invite Ms. Cassidy and other members of her committee who may have an interest in learning more about it to perhaps participate in some of the forums, either in person or online. We're trying to not have people have to come here to participate, and so using Zoom and some other things.
Okay, thanks for the response. I'm wondering what sort of plans there are to gather input from OPS families throughout this process.
As you can see in the plan, if you dig into it, I think we shared it with you in December. There will be opportunities because one of the things he creates is an advisory board, and that advisory board will consist of parents, of community members, of teachers, of staff, and business leaders, quite honestly, to do that work. And there will be an opportunity for parents to, I know that they have a boilerplate survey that they use for communities, and they will customize that for the Omaha Public Schools.
Okay, thanks.
You're welcome. It's great work. I invite you to, when next time he's here, he was here last week, I believe, to meet him. He's so smart. We kind of are learning a lot from him. He's really brought a lot of value add to our school district.
Thank you. This is an action item, so I'll entertain a motion to approve item J1C.
So moved.
Second.
So motion by Mr. Smith, second by Dr. Holman. Discussion. Any other discussion on it? All right. Mr. Ray, roll call, please.
Smith.
Aye.
Snipe.
Aye.
Snow.
Aye.
Cassidy.
Aye.
Godding.
Aye.
Holman.
Aye.
Cracky.
Aye.
Perlman.
Aye.
Ryan.
Aye.
9-9.
Motion carries. Thank you. Moving on to information item. This is committee update. Ms. Ryan.
So the policy committee met last Thursday, and we went over a number of changes, but the two that I want to highlight are we'll be putting an equity policy in front of the board soon, and also an ethics policy that came out of the discussion about the strategic plan. And then we will also have a couple more policies new policies that will be coming forward later throughout the year in regards to the strategic plan, which will be financial policies and some environmental stewardship plan. So that's what I have.
Thank you. Anyone have any questions, you could reach out to Ms. Ryan or Mr. Ray, and they can send you those as the committee is drafting those. Moving on to, if you look at the receipt of reports, we do have the second quarter board travel expenses, which is K1, K2's end-of-year map review. Those are interesting reads. Dr. Holman.
I move that the Board of Education go into closed session for the protection of the public interest and for the prevention of needless injury to the reputation of individuals, to discuss with the superintendent, secretary to the board, and legal counsel, negotiations, real estate, and legal advice.
There's a motion to go in closed session by Dr. Holman. Is there a second?
Second.
Second by Mr. Smith. Mr. Ray, roll call, please.
Snipe.
Aye.
Snow.
Aye.
Cassidy.
Aye.
Godding.
Aye.
Holman.
Aye.
Cracky.
Aye.
Perlman.
Aye.
Ryan.
Aye.
Smith.
Aye.
9-9.
Motion carries. Thank you. And thank you, everyone, for coming out tonight. Make sure you be safe. Let me remind the board that the purpose for closed session is for the protection of public interest and for prevention of needless injury to the reputation of individuals, to discuss with the superintendent, secretary to the board, and legal counsel. Negotiations, real estate, and legal advice. Let the record reflect the board went in a closed session at 8:03. Let the record reflect the board came out of closed session at 8:21. Meeting's adjourned. Please be safe, everyone, and wash your hands.